Anna Ecklund, America's most documented exorcism case. For 4 months in 1928, 2 priests battled demonic forces inside a woman cursed by her own father in rural Iowa. Long before possession cases became the subject of Hollywood spectacle, there existed a woman whose suffering would become the most thoroughly documented exorcism in American history. Her real name was Emma Schmidt, born in 1882 in a small Wisconsin town where Catholic traditions ran deep and the boundaries between faith and fear remained paper-thin. By the age of 14, Emma begins displaying symptoms that her local parish priest cannot rationalize through medicine or psychology. She recoils violently from crucifixes as though burned. She cannot cross the threshold of a church without collapsing. The sound of prayer causes her physical pain. Her behavior terrifies her family and confounds the local clergy, who recognize the signs from theological texts but have never witnessed them in person. The source of Emma's torment, according to multiple accounts documented by the church, traces back to her own father, a man with a documented reputation for involvement in occult practices. He reportedly places a curse upon his daughter, deliberately invoking demonic forces against her. Whether motivated by cruelty, insanity, or some darker purpose, his actions condemn his child to decades of spiritual warfare. When Emma reaches her 20s, a local priest performs a minor exorcism rite. The intervention brings relief. For years, Emma lives a relatively normal life, the symptoms dormant but never fully eradicated. The peace does not last. By 1928, Emma Schmidt is 46 years old. The possession returns with a ferocity that dwarfs anything witnessed during her adolescence. Her condition deteriorates so rapidly and so dramatically that the church assigns her the pseudonym Anna Ecklund to protect her identity as her case becomes known among clergy. Father Theophilus Riesinger, a Capuchin priest with experience in exorcism cases, examines Emma and determines that full ecclesiastical intervention is required. He arranges for her to be brought to Erling, Iowa, a small rural town where Father Joseph Steiger serves as pastor. Father Steiger agrees to host the exorcism at the local convent, a decision that will test his faith in ways he cannot yet imagine. The exorcism begins on August 18, 1928, in a room specially prepared and blessed for the ordeal. What the priests and attending nuns witness in the days and weeks that follow challenges every assumption they hold about the limits of human physiology and the nature of spiritual warfare. Emma levitates off her bed, not rising inches but feet into the air, her body rigid and horizontal. Witnesses observe her clinging to the wall above her bed like an insect, defying gravity in a manner that cannot be explained by any known physical principle. Her body contorts into positions that should break bones, her limbs bending backward and her spine arching in ways that cause the nuns assisting to turn away in horror. The voices that emerge from Emma during her episodes are not singular but multiple, speaking simultaneously in distinct tones and manners. Some speak in languages Emma has never studied. Some identify themselves by name, claiming to be demonic entities of biblical origin. One voice claims to be the spirit of Emma's deceased father, mocking the priests and admitting to the curse that initiated her suffering. The voices taunt Father Riesinger and Father Steiger with intimate knowledge of their doubts, their fears, and their personal failings. The entities within Emma demonstrate awareness of events occurring outside the room, referencing conversations they could not have heard and revealing secrets they should not know. Emma vomits repeatedly during the exorcism sessions, expelling enormous quantities of material that witnesses describe as impossible given her size and the fact that she refuses all food during her worst episodes. The nuns tasked with cleaning the room report substances they cannot identify, foul-smelling and viscous, appearing in quantities that defy rational explanation. Emma's face contorts during violent episodes into expressions the witnesses describe as inhuman, her features rearranging into something that bears little resemblance to the woman lying in the bed. Her eyes change, becoming black and reflective, staring without blinking for minutes at a time. Her voice drops into registers no woman should be able to produce, growling and hissing words in cadences that sound like multiple speakers overlapping. The physical strength Emma displays during her episodes requires multiple people to restrain her. She pins nuns to the walls with one hand, throws furniture across the room, and tears bedding with her fingers as though it were paper. Father Steiger, a physically robust man, finds himself unable to hold her down during violent episodes without assistance. The superhuman strength becomes one of the most consistent and disturbing features of the case, documented by every witness present during the exorcism sessions. Father Steiger enters the case with a degree of skepticism common among educated clergy. He believes in the theological reality of possession, but suspects that many reported cases result from mental illness or hysteria. Within days of the exorcism beginning, his skepticism evaporates. He witnesses Emma speaking fluent Latin despite having no education in the language. He watches her body levitate in full daylight with multiple witnesses present. He hears the voices emerging from her throat, distinct and malevolent, revealing information about his own life that Emma could not possibly know. Father Steiger becomes not just a believer, but a vocal advocate for the reality of what transpires in that room in Erling. The exorcism does not conclude in days or weeks. It continues from August 18 through December 23, 1928, spanning over 4 months of daily sessions. The duration alone makes the case extraordinary in the documented history of exorcism. Most rituals, even those acknowledged by the Church as genuine, conclude within days. The sustained nature of the Erling exorcism exhausts everyone involved. Father Riesinger loses weight and appears gaunt and aged by the ordeal. Father Steiger suffers a serious automobile accident during the exorcism period, an event he later attributes to the malevolent forces arrayed against the ritual. The nuns assisting report feeling spiritually oppressed for hours after each session, describing sensations of being watched and followed even when away from the convent. The entities within Emma resist with intelligence and strategy. They exploit moments of doubt among the priests. They escalate their displays when observers are present, as though performing for an audience. They create chaos and confusion, attempting to undermine the resolve of those conducting the exorcism. Father Riesinger later writes that he has encountered cases where he felt certain of demonic presence, but nothing in his experience prepares him for the concentrated malevolence he faces in Erling. He describes the case as warfare in the truest sense, a battle for a human soul fought over months with uncertain outcome. December 23, 1928, brings the final confrontation. Emma enters a state of extreme agitation, her body arching off the bed, her voice producing sounds the witnesses describe as inhuman, a cacophony of growls and shrieks that seem to come from multiple sources simultaneously. The room temperature drops precipitously despite the winter heating. The air becomes thick and oppressive, making it difficult for those present to breathe. Father Riesinger continues the prayers without pause, his voice hoarse from months of recitation. Then suddenly, complete stillness. Emma's body relaxes, her breathing steadies. She opens her eyes, and the eyes looking out are her own, clear and confused. Emma asks where she is. She asks what has happened. She remembers nothing of the preceding 4 months. She is weak, malnourished, and disoriented, but she is herself. The woman who has lived under spiritual torment since childhood is finally present and unencumbered. The relief among the priests and nuns is profound. Father Riesinger documents the case in meticulous detail, and his account is published as a pamphlet by a Catholic press under the title Begone Satan. The publication provides one of the most detailed first-hand clerical accounts of a multi-month exorcism ever made public, circulating among clergy and eventually reaching a wider audience as interest in possession cases grows. The case of Anna Ecklund is studied in seminaries and cited in demonological literature as evidence that possession can be a sustained, multi-year condition rather than a brief crisis. Catholic scholars reference the Erling exorcism as a textbook example of the proper application of ecclesiastical ritual in extreme cases. Paranormal researchers consider it the most thoroughly documented American possession case, notable not for sensationalism, but for the quality and quantity of first-hand documentation preserved. Father Riesinger's account, Father Steiger's testimony, and the written statements of the nuns who witnessed the events provide a layered record rarely matched in paranormal investigation. Emma Schmidt lives a quiet life after the exorcism. Her true identity remains protected for decades, the pseudonym Anna Ecklund preserving her privacy as her case becomes famous. She attends church regularly, something she could not do for most of her life. She maintains correspondence with Father Riesinger until his passing, expressing gratitude for the intervention that freed her. She passes away in relative obscurity, her suffering finally ended, her case a cornerstone of documented American paranormal history. The convent in Erling, where the exorcism took place, no longer stands, but the legacy of what occurred there in 1928 endures. The case challenges assumptions about the limits of human experience and the nature of spiritual reality. It provides documentation that satisfies the rigorous standards of ecclesiastical investigation while remaining accessible to those outside the church seeking to understand the phenomenon of possession. The voices, the levitation, the superhuman strength, the months of sustained ritual combat, all documented by credible witnesses who had no incentive to fabricate or exaggerate. Anna Ecklund's exorcism remains a case that demands attention not because it fits comfortably into existing frameworks of understanding, but because it refuses to be dismissed or explained away. The priests who conducted the ritual went on record. The witnesses provided testimony. The documentation exists. For those willing to examine the evidence, the case stands as one of the most compelling arguments for the reality of possession ever recorded on American soil. If you found this case compelling, subscribe to Vanishing Roads for more documented paranormal investigations from around the world. This story was created with AI assistance based on documented case files. All events reference real investigations and reported incidents.